Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Obscure Arc, your number one stop for only slice of life anime, apparently. Only feel good stuff. Here, we do not cover anything serious in the slightest. I am joined by my co host, Emre, as per usual. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. So far so good. That for these episodes that intro actually feels pretty honest.
All we do is feel good, nice slice of life. Like, even Journal with Witches, feel good most,
It
in a lot of
is. It
sections. But
is.
yes, we are covering another feel good show today with Emre's forced watch of.
Kotaro Lives Alone or Kotaro Hitorigurashi. Which is something I've stumbled upon not when it got released. I first saw it around last year, I want to say. So late 2025,
Mhm.
maybe late 2025. So it's even a relatively new anime for me.
I'm
But
also noticing a trend that this is another Netflix produced anime that you've recommended to us like in a row because I think it's been Pluto,
Pluto, yes.
um, Dorhedoro, and then this, and I think it's another Netflix exclusive. Which
Well, Orb is Netflix too, though.
sure, but I'm saying like
So I guess
specifically
I
in
do.
this trend of like the past few episodes, I'm like we're really sticking to the Netflix theme.
Yeah, like hey, they do get good IPs. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
like they hunt down like Pluto was a solid
obviously.
one. Orb itself is a fucking hidden gem for everyone out there who didn't watch it. Go watch it. Dorohedoro, like the IP is there for sure. So
Hmm.
they hunt the right things to hunt down. Which brings us back to Kotaro Lives Alone. This is a anime that came out in spring 2022, which is why I said like I kind of came into the game late for this one. Made by studio Liden Films. They also did shows like Tokyo Revengers, Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, Call of the Night, Goblin Slayer Season 2, Insomniacs After School, Love and Lies. Some of these shows are relatively popular within their own
I mean, it's
genre.
really Tokyo Revengers,
Yeah.
which is like pow off. Everything else is kind of like
Like if you like that specific genre, you might have
sure,
heard
yeah.
that
Yeah,
show
like
kind of thing,
if you're into like magical girl ish type stuff, Yamada Kun is there, and
Yeah.
Call of the Night is amongst romance fans very well known, and Goblin Slayer too, obviously. But
Yeah,
like these are
Goblin.
in comparison to Tokyo Revengers. Tokyo Revengers is like the pow.
Yeah.
Everyone, this is a mainstream anime.
Like Tokyo Revengers, going back to it, like I I've read its manga way before it was an
Oh, I
anime.
haven't seen anything related to it at all.
And I remember being really pleasantly surprised and kind of hooked to the manga when I was reading it. Anime, it's cool. Uh, we gotta see the rest. But
It's always I'm with Tokyo Revengers. I'm always just like, wow, that is a interesting one to go mainstream. Like I'm not shocked it went mainstream, but I'm like, okay, sure, I guess. Like
yeah, I feel it's kind of like an erased type of situation
yeah,
where
a
like you
little.
don't expect it, but
Yeah,
then
because like a solo leveling and Attack on Titan, it's like fucking duh. These are like the biggest shows
yeah,
or the biggest manga in Manhua. Of course, they're going to be the biggest anime given the big budgets,
yeah,
But yeah, Tokyo Revengers was like a bit of a oh okay, sure, I guess that's mainstream.
yeah. So if anything, Liden Films know how to do some mainstream, nice looking animes. Then it's obviously, well, not obviously, we're assuming kind of,
Yeah,
it's produced by Netflix and licensed by Netflix. It's based on a manga, so it's a manga first and then anime adaptation. The manga did its run between 2015 till 2023, has 164 chapters or 10 tankobon volumes.
those tankobon is very important to include there because technically, Journal with Which you could be is like, well, it's got more volumes, and then it's like a third of the length
Yeah,
because tankobon is just like ginormous. So
so it's kind of like almost like a omnibus-ish
yeah, it's like an
kind
omnibus.
of approach to mangas,
Yeah, because like
basically.
Journal with Witch released in a magazine,
Yeah,
and it's like there would be like standalone books occasionally, I think, but I think that it primarily was serialized in a magazine, and then if it was successful enough, I think a couple of them got made into their own. But yeah, it's like really uncommon. Like people are shocked at how uncommon it is. It's more common practice nowadays to like serialize as like a book itself.
Yeah.
The first, because it's like publishers don't want to take that risk, you know.
Yep. And then going down the line, I was almost gonna say, but it's written and made by Mami Tsumura, which it's their only work as
From what
far
I
as we
found,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. It has also a live action adaptation made right before the anime adaptation came out, so 2021, and it's 10 episodes. They did not go through, which, like, if I've somehow never talked about this on this show before, like, my approach to live action adaptation to most manga / anime is not favorable.
I think that's most people. I think the only one I've heard good things about, besides the One Piece one,
Yeah.
and a couple of the other modern ones, a couple of the modern ones I've heard are okayish. A random one that's really people like is Yu Yu Hakusho's like 2023 one. I've heard very good things about.
Okay.
It's interesting action. Like the action is great actually, but the show itself is a bit still spotty. You know, weird adjustments they made. But another one is Chihaya Furu is really funny as a live action show.
Interesting.
Chihaya Furu is a very anime, so as a live action, it's apparently quite funny. But yeah, I mean, most people. I will say we're 2 for 2 this month on live action so far, of both having a manga, anime, and live action.
That is true, yeah. We're
Very rare.
We're
very,
going
very
strong.
We're also manga / manhwa that are not very popular, but I think both of these are understandably source materials of writing that people would be interested in making into a live action. Like these
Yeah.
are ones that are relatively inexpensive to make live action, interesting enough story, probably a large enough audience that it's like, let's see if
How
there's
it
something,
does, yeah.
right? You know.
Valid. So that's that. But music for the anime is done by Daisuke Shinoda. He's done other works for Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online 2, which is what it is.
You hold a gun to my head, I can't tell you what season of Sword Art Online that is. You say which order is it, and I'm just like, I don't
That's the second season of like almost like a spin-off or like a side
know. I know.
side run they had, which I didn't enjoy that much. But
I know a lot of people didn't like Gun
like,
Gale.
if you all enjoy it, good on you. He also did Blue Reflection Ray, and is doing or has done but is not released yet another anime called World is Dancing, which is coming up this year in a month or two.
Yeah.
It
It actually looks pretty good, and it's also probably heavily music focused. So,
So we'll see his ultimate skills on that.
yeah, like
guess,
I would say the music in this show is not very prominent. It's also very simple, and I would not say I don't dislike it or I don't like it. Like it's just like it's good and it's there.
It's like I'll mention this later on as well, but like this show kind of leans into like cute moments a lot,
Yeah.
too, and the songs support.
It's
cuteness.
like
yeah.
and cue this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that works.
Yeah,
and it's nothing. It's not Ushio.
It's like cute, like crafty things
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
in and out during the show, and
I'm
it's
interested to
okay.
see because I could not find a lot about Shinoda's
Yeah.
work, but World is Dancing seems like the type of thing where you, as an artist, like as a composer, will be tested because it's quite literally about dancing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you won't have anything to hide, and you have to not only support but raise the scene. You know.
So we'll see his game
Yeah.
in that upcoming new series. Then we searched for a sound director, but none was listed.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, like you.
Also, I will say on smaller productions,
Yeah.
a lot of roles get
Like
multiple
mixed up,
hats
yeah.
and shit like that. So
you don't always find people you all have encountered similar situations on the podcast where we skipped certain roles because simply they either did not exist or was not shared with public for
Yeah.
whatever reason. So, directed by Tome Makino. They also did other shows called A Condition Called Love. Aheren is Indecipherable Season 2. Woodpecker Detective's Office. The Moon on a Rainy Night, which is an upcoming show. And A Tale of the Secret Saint, which is a fall 2026 show. They also did episode directing on a really popular anime franchise at this point, Haikyuu, specifically Haikyuu to the top, and other shows like Surezure Children, Fairy Tail, Final.
I will say,
They're pretty generic.
I am watching Haikyuu to the top with my roommates again soon, and I will say the episode directing specifically of season 4. I'm a huge Haikyuu season 4 glazer. I love season 4 so much. I think it's the best season by quite a bit. But yeah, I think they did like the earlier episodes of it, which are the less action paced ones. But I felt like it was important to mention the episode directing as well because while the directing is decently expansive, like this is like a lot of our directors are usually like maybe 1 to 3.
Yeah.
These are a lot less known shows. Like Ahara and I know is kind of well known, but the rest are not as well known. Like A Condition Called Love is kind of known amongst romance fans, but yeah.
Yeah. But and Fairy Tail Final was relatively important to large fan
a lot
base,
of the
so-
times when I'm talking about these people who get into directing roles, very, very few of them, there are some, but there are very few of them, have not done extensive work in other roles. Like usually it's
Yeah.
key animation, animation directing, episode directing, storyboarding. Like these are the most popular roles
Yeah.
that directors will have before they become a director for the first time. Like it's very rare for an anime director to not have 5 years minimum experience in the industry before they become a director. Like
Yeah.
they're credited on big shows. Like there are very few of them, unless it's a small studio, will get a chance to direct on even small studio shows unless they've come from another big studio or
Yeah,
something like that.
for
Like
sure.
they really usually need to show their chops because it's incredibly difficult to piece all this stuff together because you have to have a hand in everything. So
Yep. And as to where you can watch this show, it's obviously Netflix or any other means you deem necessary. Now, going into the description of this show, it's pretty straightforward if you've seen the title screen and like a short teaser, trailer, whatever. Kotaro Lives Alone. It's a slice of life anime where we follow our main character, Kotaro, and how he interacts with his surroundings, as well as the people who basically become his chosen family throughout the show or throughout the manga. And in my perspective, the anime does a fairly good job at making us feel comfortable, cozy, at home, in a sense, but also kind of pointing out and realize the awkwardness of the situation Kotaro is in and how he lives. And ultimately, kind of through that, does a decent job, or for me, again, a good job about bringing up the question or the thought of how important an upbringing of a kid and a kid's life and adults in a kid's life is in that sense. It's like you could guess, which we've boldly said already, it's a slice of life, comedy, and slight drama. Nothing too extreme. It's at the end of the day, it's still like feel good anime with its cutesy moments, and it has nice pastel art if you appreciate pastel art. It's not the generic type; it's more old school approach to pastel art, but it's still there. Has soft lines, not as like hard lines as you might see in other shows, and has a really like cozy world. You really know that it's cozy because I've already used the word 4 times within the last 3 minutes. But yeah, so, for me, I enjoyed this show. I've stumbled upon this show when I was kind of low energy on how much anime I can consume in a sense, and I didn't want anything like super like intense and like high spirited, like or something that would basically cause me to question my own existence. So I was like kind of going through, and it kind of picked up my attention with its art style. And every now and then I do appreciate like more simplistic slice of life shows. So I was like, okay, let me take a look, and it kind of did surprised me in a more pleasant way than I thought. Like I was genuinely thinking this show would be like one of the shows that I only watch when I eat food and it's just a time passery, but it did not turn out like that at all. So I kind of want to dig into what your impressions are, and like let's break that down.
Well, I've had Kotaro Lives Alone on my list for basically since it released, primarily because when everyone saw it coming out, this like show wasn't like insanely popular. It's near the back end of like Netflix's big anime push. Like Netflix is still doing an anime push, but it's died down of producing
Yeah.
anime for
Yeah.
sure. But there's like a big push kind of early, like late 2015 to like basically nearing the end of COVID was like a big Netflix push. And so this was near the end of that. And this is on my list because the dude looks like Ray from March Comes in Like a Lion, but like 4. And so everyone was like, hey, Jared, I know you really like March Comes in Like a Lion. Look at this show. And like, it was on my list and I was like considering watching it all this time, but never really sit with me. One of the things that is just true is I don't love the art. Like, I love March Comes in Like a Lion, but the art in the show is a bit clashing and it works more in moments than all the time for me personally.
Yeah, you also mentioned like even though you love the show, like art is something that you might want different.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
too.
I think it fits the show, and I think I like it overall. Like, it works because the direction is there. But I think on a baseline bias standpoint, it's not my preference, right? It's not what I
Yeah.
enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it should be challenged, more so. But like seeing a show that I know nothing about and having art I don't necessarily vibe with, it would definitely maybe put it on the back burner for longer. And one of like the really big things for me is that I just don't like kids that much. One of the big things for me is like I was watching like.
If you see Jared walking down the street, you can punch him since he said this on social media right now.
Yeah. This is like my divisive. This is how I lose everything. But like, I'm similar to Takei in the show where it's like less that I'm scared of them, but more just like I don't like the vibe of doing it that much per se. Of like about like having to be around kids and doing kid-like things or like appeasing that type of proper way of being around them, quote unquote. And I mean, I will say like when I watched Spy Family, I was like, oh man, I don't like Kotaro, but I hate Anya. Like
Crazy.
I don't dislike Kotaro. Don't get me wrong, but it's like being around a character like Kotaro and like the whole vibe of the show. Like Kotaro does not pull me into the show. Anya actively takes me out of Spy Family. Like it really makes me go like, wow, I don't know if I want to watch the show anymore. Right? Like I do not enjoy it.
So you don't like when she's like, Anya's got to save the world. And
Anya goes waku waku, and then it's another of the exact same thing you saw like 10 episodes ago, and then the last 10 episodes have been the same. But yeah, regardless, like that's the reason why I didn't watch it. When I watched the show itself, like I think this show is quite good. I think that it's very formulaic and it's very it's very similar to like stuff like Sazai-san, where it's like part of it is like almost teaching a life lesson to children.
Quick heads up, he did say quite good. So when he starts butchering, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So I do this. I've been trying to be present about this now. Like I do enjoy it, but I love talking about the negatives or specifics. But
He's a natural born hater, y'all.
yes, I have been born in fire and hate, and that when I wake up in the morning, it's like when I don't wake up early enough in the morning, it's because my hate didn't wake me up, and that's a problem, and I got to work on that. But for me, I think this show is very formulaic, and I think the formula is very good, and it's very similar to a lot of cartoons, like traditional, like even like American Western cartoons of like the goal of these chapters, like because a lot of Western cartoons will often be split up in like either 3 like 6-minute segments or 2 9-minute segments. Like that's kind of how these shows are as well. Except they're slightly longer because these episode run lengths are about like
6-ish.
They're like 26, 27 minutes
with
but,
intro outro, but
yeah, with intro outro, and like Netflix credits and all that shit. But it's still longer than your average anime episode. So
like we were discussing with you the other day, like you could argue like when it's older animes, you could say episodes go as low as like 15 to 18 minutes, and now more like newer ones, you usually end up getting 20, maybe 21 minutes with intro, outro excluded.
Yeah,
so
2340 is like a classic. You'll see 2340 of like that includes buffer of intro and outro and credits, and like that usually ends up being about 20 minutes. Like there's a specific. It's less about minutes to these companies, about frames that they actually care about. So usually, especially on anything that's going to broadcast, will have a specific frame count they have to meet. You see variable frame count and like length in this because it's technically an ONA, which is like original like streaming show. So like you'll see that it'll be more variable because they're not actually worried about putting in a time slot with commercials. So it's very common that shows like this will be kind of longer or variable. Or a lot of Netflix produced shows like Pluto obviously is another one where it's like it fucking like doing a short series length of episodes where these are like 40 to 50 minute episodes. But with all of that, like the main thing for me that kind of like, while I do enjoy the formula, it's because it's so predictable, I kind of like enjoy the feel good and I kind of know the lessons that's coming up, but I'm always kind of like, well, I'm kind of taken out of it because I kind of know what's coming and I feel like it's not presented in a way that's super unique. I think that there's definitely quality, but I'm always
Yeah.
kind of like, the writing is so on the nose, especially with Kotaro. Like, my biggest problem with Kotaro as a character is I think he's too much of like Jesus Christ incarnate of I know everything that's going on and I know everyone who's talking and how they feel around me. And like, I don't like it when there's any character in any show like that. And it definitely is even more noticeable when it's a kid. Like, I don't
This
like
is.
it.
Are we talking when like he notices every slight small change kind of
Like,
thing,
because I know
or
part of it is that he is like a kid who's very sensitive to things, and also he's known to be very wary of like adults and kind of like I
yeah?
get the reason why. I don't like how it
But
functions.
it's just like for you, it's like a unlock everything kind of card,
It's a
which
bit too much. Like, I
got
kind of
you.
like, I think the episode that we kind of talking about like slight spoilers, not really spoilers, but like there's an episode with Takuya or Takusa with him where it's kind of like he knew the whole time about what he was doing. I'm kind of like, I kind of wish he was like more disappointed or like it's like I feel like he just is like too much of like a godchild. I really dislike shows with like godchild type stuff, and I think that
He dislikes shows with kids.
well,
Dislikes
Godchild's
shows.
a very specific genre
I'm
of
just
like they
kidding. I'm
will
just
solve
kidding.
every problem, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this is a kid who's going to solve every problem. Like, a show that I like that has this problem is Fruits Basket, where the main character like kind of fixes all the side characters, and I'm kind of like, I don't like shows like that, where
Yeah.
I don't like the usage of narrative
Like you
tools
have
like
one
that.
character that has all the answers to all the problems.
Because that's not how
Yeah.
people work, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Journal with Witch is the perfect like comparison to this, where it's like Makio could have been that, and she's not that, and that's why I love Makio. Is I think Makio
And
is
like arguably, she could have been like that, even like because of an age difference aspect. But
like there's
she's
always
not
some
like
narrative
that. Yeah.
reason that people want to give me, and I'm like, I don't really care about the narrative reason because it's being used as a tool this way narratively,
Yeah.
and it doesn't vibe with me. That's all it is.
No, I got you. Well, yeah, and it's just I feel like to talk about this show, we kind of have to get into some spoilers really early on into conversation,
Yeah,
which I do kind of want to talk about Kotaro's situation so people can understand what you're like speaking about more easily. As Kotaro, basically, he's a 4-year-old child who has to live alone, as we can figure out from the title. And he goes to he goes to this apartment complex, I guess you would say.
it's like a 6 apartment singular building.
Exactly, kind of situation, but he lives alone. His dad is not or cannot be in the picture for logical reasons, and his mom is passed away.
Animate away.
Exactly. So he's dealing with this situation alone with child, not even like child services income kind of thing. It's her.
Yeah, there's no guardian.
Yeah.
There's just like it's life insurance that he's making money off
her
of.
her dead mom's life insurance. Like through that, he gets money every month, and that's it. And he has to make a way of living with that. So this is like the whole basic setting of it, and that's why, like, since he, even if it's just 4 years old, he had this like weird kind of environment around him. He's like really sensitive and like super observant and all that stuff. Like those are the things that Jared was just mentioning, just so you all have a better like grasp on the situation and what we're specifically talking about when we say godchild.
To be completely clear, it
Yeah.
makes sense for him to be more aware and more like catching certain things, and like totally makes sense. I think the fact that it's every time is my constant
how
problem.
often it's
and it's a
used,
very
yeah.
consistent pattern of like we kind of know, okay, Kotaro might be getting deceived, or Kotaro is like struggling with something, but he'll figure it out, and only Kotaro will figure it out. Like, I think the episodes I appreciate the most is when Kotaro is having to interact with a character to help him solve a problem he doesn't understand.
So that's what I was gonna say. I don't know if him usually finding a lot of like answers to his problems alone actually boosts the feeling that type of episodes create for me, or like make me feel. But whenever it's an episode where the problem is not solved by him alone, and it's through some other side characters, which we'll start mentioning. For example, the most apparent one being obviously Karino or
Mm-hmm.
Shin. I get even like happier because I feel like within those episodes, those are like a there aren't as many episodes like that as we'd like, but also those episodes feel like they are the truly like true moments where he experiences to be an actual kid in a sense.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a gimmick with some episodes that are like not less episodes, more chapters. Because this show does have very clear chapter
Yeah.
divides of where it's kind of just like, wow, look at how incredible of a kid Kotaro is. Like that's kind of the
Yeah.
goal of the episode, and it kind of is like semi pity party too, which I don't like. Where it's kind of like, wow, look at how incredible he is, despite how terrible his situation is. Like I don't like that feeling that I get from the show. But when he's interacting with Karino, Mizuki, like Tomnu, these are all great characters. Like I think that provide real value to not only Kotaro but like the show itself and the storytelling involved. Like I think these are all very real, very human characters that are very simple, like a lot less simple and like a lot less messy than Journal with Witch. I don't need messy and complicated and overly human all the time. And I really do just need this. But for me, it's like the balance in the show is what really, the part that really misses for me a little. Like, again, I like what it's doing overall, but I think because it does a lot of the same episode and chapters over and over again, I would prefer if that balance at least shifted a bit more aggressively. Like, I kind of feel like, it's like feel good, and then darker moment, and then character realizes thing, and then a little bit darker, and then up near the end, or kind of slightly will vary.
Uplifting
But it feels,
conclusion,
it feels like I'm ready to hit that every single time, and I don't love that per se.
Yeah.
Like I think the show is best when I am interacting with one of the other characters' life, and then cultural circumstances are then placed in context of that, rather than the characters being placed in cultural circumstances. Because cultural circumstances as a storytelling mechanism feel so suffocating. Like the other characters can't breathe and do their thing. Like they have to be solely concerned with Kotaro, which I understand why. Like he's a kid, orphaned, you know, they need to take care of him. Kids need a lot of attention. Makes sense. But as a storytelling mechanism, I feel like it doesn't let the characters do what they need to do to be involved with him and involved in their own lives in a way that's more interesting. Like I think one of my favorite things is near the very end of the show, which is like, you know, slight spoilers, like when Karino is like got a big deadline. Right. I think that's like one of my favorite chapters is like Karino is now learning, or not learning, but forced to balance his relationship with Kotaro, someone who he could prioritize because he was low-key like a bit of a deadbeat. Like, you know, shout out to all my manga artists out there, you're not deadbeats, but you know,
are you? No.
but like, you know, a creative who is working freelancing, if you will, from home.
Yeah.
So a deadbeat. but like, you know, he was able to focus everything on Kotaro. And then when you are then put up with a challenge of a big project, learning that, you know, I'm no better than anyone else if I just prioritize my career now. Right? Like I have to balance. I can't just prioritize, you know, and I think that's a great episode and a great little chapter. But ultimately, I think that is there's a lot of exception with that chapter as a comparison to other episodes. You know, I feel like a lot of
there are. I feel like this is a mixed bag when it comes to consistency of episodes. I certainly do really, really enjoy the feeling of the whole entire show.
Yeah.
Each episode, but as in like how much character context do you get every episode? It really is a mixed bag. Like certain episodes you're just cruising, you're just like seeing Kotaro being a weird kid and like, you know, buying napkins for his neighbors and stuff like that. Tissues, tissues.
It matters because of the nutrients and content in them.
Exactly, which that was kind of sad.
It is kind of sad, but it's very
which they didn't introduce that part really, really early.
I do appreciate it being held back on, but it's a bit on the nose. Not that it's not real, but it's a bit on the nose. I think there's a more elegant way of doing it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like when you get close to that being introduced, you kind of wake up to the situation.
Yeah.
So it's not like when he's like getting the highest quality, like least processed ones because he used to eat, like you already make that conclusion. But I'm like a lot of the things, like the reason why we said this show is still like a good quality is because even though it does a lot of things on the nose, at the end of the day, it still holds back certain things and then follows certain tropes to its genre, but finds a good balance where it's entertaining and comfortable to watch and actually consume. And mind you, I would say this though, if this formula was used for like a 24 episode show, it wouldn't work. Um I do want to say that like I feel like Kotaro Lives Alone works only because it's like 10 episodes, roughly equivalent of like 13 episodes, because each episode is like 3-4 minutes longer than
Yeah.
a regular anime episode. So if it was longer than this, I feel like this formula would not work for a lot of people.
I think for me, one of the big things about this show is that when you watch it episode by episode, it's fine.
Yeah.
But when you take it all back and like look at the 10 episodes you watched, you notice too many patterns and lack of progression and all these things where it's like Cultural Lives Alone is not making mistakes in any episodes, in my opinion, beyond just like, mistakes in art subjective, obviously, but like it's maybe for my taste being a bit too on the nose and a bit too brute force, but I don't think that's inherently wrong to do, especially if you mix it up. But I think it's the patterns and the lack of progression and the consistency to do the same thing over and over again that I find more troubling, and something that I'm like, it's not necessarily for me. Like I enjoyed every episode that I was watching in isolation, but like I'm always like, what am I getting out of this holistically? And it's very much like, well, if you weren't enjoying the moments in between, which again, this is part of the show's appeal, is that it's about the moments in between, right, of life and like the things we care about and the little chapters and memories. But there's a way to do that more eloquently than I think Kotaro Lives Alone currently does. But I do like how it's presented, and I do like the sweet moments in the show, and I do, even if it relies a little heavily on kids, and I do like the moments in the show. I just think there's like a really big reliance on those to work for you. And so I could see this show, like, I like this show, like, to be clear, but like I could see someone not liking the show if those things in the formula aren't what they value. Which I think
definitely.
Which I think like with Journal with Witch, and now because we've reviewed it, I'm allowed to. I'm giving myself the allowance to constantly compare to Journal with Witch. But with Journal with Witch, one of the things is that like the quality and mastery is so excellent that I think that even if you don't value these things, you will still enjoy it and you will still get something out of it. Whereas with this show, I think there is mastery and I think there is quality to it, but
not as holistically as Journal with Witch.
I think that there is, if you aren't valuing these things or you don't care about these things, or if you're someone who doesn't necessarily enjoy slice of life like that, then you will find the show harder to enjoy, which I do judge a little bit, despite myself enjoying it, because I'm just kind of like, again, I think part of it is I really like the side characters in the show. Like
that's what I was gonna say. Like that element, like even though there are some things that, like in terms of pace, like not even pacing, but like the structure of the show that might not be etiquette to everyone's palate. The side characters are like really like nice and interesting in their own like original ways, and that actually kind of carries.
Yeah, for my biggest problem with the side characters is I think all of them are phenomenal. Like these are characters that I think you as a show should be very proud of having. They're not utilized the best. I think that's the part that makes it very difficult to tell people about.
Because like we also know that like the episodes we see on the anime, they're like taken randomly almost from the manga.
Like the weird part is like this. So it's like I think don't quote me. Editor Jared will correct me on this, but the last chapter shown in the anime is like chapter 100 or something like that, or within that range. Yeah. And it's like very clearly you did not get through 100 chapters while watching the show. So like they've chosen very weird, like some chapters are very intentional, but other ones are just like, ones that work and all that stuff. And so it's they don't build the profiles of these characters
It's almost like, I'll throw this, Horimiya's the second season.
Oh, Missing Pieces? Yeah, it's
Missing
like
Pieces. It's like that, but there's no establishing season before this. So it kind of can feel like a bit too lacking on side characters or certain moments and engaging with those characters.
Yeah, it feels too, like, while Missing Pieces is, like, fragmented, but it's understandable because when you watch the original Horimiya, whether people like it or not, in my opinion, this is a show that can stand on its own without Missing Pieces. Yeah. Whereas Kotaro would really benefit from either a season 2 or having these parts filled out a bit more. Like Mizuki is a character that I think I cared about her, and I think she was a good character, and I enjoyed her chapters that she was involved in. But like
when she's gone, she's gone.
Yeah, she's gone, and I'm like, where the fuck did I don't need conclusion, but I was just like, they built her and then didn't do anything really with her, right?
Like is because it's also weird. Like when you watch it, like there are certain moments with characters, where they're like, for example, since we're talking off of her, like Mizuki and Kotaro, like she literally, when her moving away comes up for the first time, possibly, and Kotaro kind of like feels abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
like she promises that like she'll be there for him however long, and then through the show, further down the line, when she actually moves from the apartment, like she's gone. And like I haven't read the manga, I'm kind of inclined to, but like I haven't yet, and I know Jared didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, this is us assuming, but probably she's not doing that in the manga. But because the chapters are selected more randomly for the anime, it really becomes like a plot hole in a sense.
It feels like you would have revisited that point again about abandonment with Mizuki again before she then just straight up leaves.
Yeah.
Right? Like it feels like it's kind of abrupt, like kind of, not really, but like a little. The big thing for me is that these characters are very rich, but they're always secondary to Kotaro and his problems in life, which I get. Raising a child's important. Like I think the themes this show's covers, which is like abandonment's a big thing,
Yeah.
the importance of nourishing a child, like the importance of a home and finding
Basically
family.
nurture.
Yeah, like nurture, like is a big thing. The other thing I really love is like Japanese consideration and consideration in general, where it's like Kotaro has been, because of Tono-sama, as well as also like how he was raised, as kind of like I will be overly considerate above everything else, which is a very common, trope in Japanese
Yeah.
culture, where it's just like, I will do something even detrimental to myself to be considerate. And I kind of enjoy how that's explored in Kotaro, because it's seen through the child, like perspective of a child who we like, children should not be this considerate, right? Because you are children, you are, allowed to be selfish, you're allowed to explore the world and learn your lessons, where it's like, Kotaro kind of doesn't have that luxury, as well as also being, it being very nice to see. Like I enjoy how that's explored with him, and I think that a lot of the themes in the show are very good. They're just so centralized onto Kotaro that I'm kind of just like, I would love it if Mizuki interfaced with those themes with Kotaro's problems a bit more. But it's always like the episode's like 70% Kotaro, and then it comes back to a character.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like, and then when they come back to that character, they feel like they also have to give their backstory, where it's like, that's the consistent problem I don't like about a lot of shows, is where it's like, when they're on screen, their only job is to give their backstory rather than interfacing with the rest of the cast. Where it's like, Mizuki's like, my boyfriend's abusing me, and she just explains her situation, and I'm just like, that's great, and I feel that, and I think it's a real emotion, and I get it, but it's not interfacing with other characters, so it feels like two fragments rather than a cohesive narrative, which I think is the biggest part of the show. That, like, I think weirdly enough, Tamaru's, like his arc, I think interfaces with Kotaro's a bit better, because it's both Kotaro
And his
yearning,
own child.
yeah, Kotaro's yearning for her father, and Tamaru's yearning for his son, and those interface in a way where it's like, these are characters who can't give each other what they want, and kind of like, the obligations they have, and like I think that's very interesting. But when it's like Mizuki, I notice it a lot. When it's with Kobayashi a little bit, the lawyer, I notice a bit. Like Kobayashi doesn't have a lot of problems, but kind of how she presents herself is very much only from Kotaro's perspective. Takei's kind of like this as well.
I did like Kobayashi's like arc, if you may say so. But like, I get what you see. Since I don't necessarily dislike the story being told off of a kid, like some stuff.
Well, to be clear, it's not because it's being told off of a kid. It's the fragmentation. That is more my problem than the kid part.
No. I was just gonna mention like, not the fragmentation part, but like the part where it's like usually 70% Kotaro and like 30% whoever else that's related to him in that episode. Like, I like I don't have a problem. It's not necessarily but it's not something that I was like, okay, like this is a minus point for me kind of situation. But where I would want is that even if we had those episodes, there's certain episodes. Again, this is all kind of boils down to them selecting. Like there's certain episodes where we get more proper engagement from other characters, which usually most of them serve for Karino, obviously,
Yeah.
because he's the main point of interest in Kotaro's life at this point. Um, and they have really funny interactions as well, which I enjoy a lot. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. But I would like to see other characters have some more situations like Karino did in Kotaro's life. Um, Even moments like where he goes to, like, where he's handing in his drawings and his story for that month or whatever to the editor to get feedback, and like he kind of gets up and leaves the table for like a bathroom
Mm-hmm.
break, and then Kotaro and editor like has this conversation.
Real talk here.
Yeah, real talk here, and then Kotaro kind of like starts treating him like harsher, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like his drawings and stuff as well, because like they just both, like the editor and Kotaro both want Karino to just become much better than what he is right now and basically fulfill his potential. So like those type of moments when they happen with Karino actually really fulfills you as a viewer, as the audience. But I feel like we don't have enough of those with other characters.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Karino is a great character. Like to talk a little bit about him, he's really backloaded with a lot of his stuff. Like a lot of his stuff is really good near the very end. Like the very end, with spoilers for the very end, with Karino's lie and the whole thing related to that, as well as also the stuff with the way that how Kotaro sees himself as like Nita lies to Kotaro, an understandable lie, but lies to Kotaro that like basically tells him he's probably burdening him, and kind of how Karino has to like outwardly state, "You're not burdening me. This is my choice. This is what I care about in my all that stuff." And I think that dynamic is very interesting. But Karino is the only one who pulls that out of Kotaro. It makes him question and emotional, and also I feel like all these other characters don't do it as heavy with him. I think another really big thing that one of the themes in the show that's very well explored, because it actually comes from multiple different angles, is like the nature of abuse.
Yeah.
Which I would argue there's too much of a every single person you've seen in the show is abused type thing, where it's like I think that is more realistic than people think, and I also think that it is like fine to have a show that has this much, but I don't like how it's presented it's a kicker at the very end of like, by the way, I was also abused. Like I don't like that because it feels like it's not very eloquent. Like the big
The
one for me,
execute is not the gentlest for sure.
for me, it's the biggest scene is like with the lawyer who's like, oh, by the way, shows scars. And I'm like, I didn't need to see that. Or like, there's a way you can present it that's more eloquent or like hint it a bit more. Like it just felt like a very at the end, back-ended. But the way they talk about it is like a big thing about abuse in children is that children do not understand right and wrong. They inherently do not. Like they are taught what is right and wrong. And so being told you're wrong is the big thing about abuse that makes it like Kotaro's whole thing of like, I need to be stronger. It's my fault. That is truly how kids feel until they are like set straight, like either when they're older or whenever they're given time. But like truly these kids, there are some, maybe that it's an outlier, but more often than not, it's a very, very, very common trend amongst abused children to take it as their fault for being abused. They're making mistakes, they're doing something wrong.
Because mind you, as kids, as humans, we don't necessarily tend to think for ourselves and then come to a conclusion. We observe the reactions of other adults and react to their reaction. So as a kid, if you're being told something's your fault, if that's the reaction of a situation at hand, then you usually by default start thinking, oh yeah, I'm at fault here. And you reflect that and take that as is, for however long it may be. So
yeah, and then like a big part of this show is showing that once that's imprinted on a child, undoing it takes forever,
longer,
if not impossible for some children. And I think that part is very, very well done.
yeah.
But ultimately, that part is like a fragment of the show, and I don't think everything ties together very neatly, which is again like as a 10-episode show, I think it's more okay, right? I think it's able to get away with this a lot more in my book, but I think because I crave a little bit more out of like, I think Karino is such a good character in terms of, we're talking about a flawed person who is not treating Kotaro perfectly but does care about him. I think those are always the most interesting relationships, where it's like Karino does fuck up like a decent bit where it's
Yeah, he
like he's
does.
not considered, like it's just how it is. Like, he doesn't understand what Kotaro is going through, which is
Well,
just the nature of life.
you gotta think of it like this. This from this perspective, it's kind of similar to like Ikoku Nikki. It's like in that show, Aya goes into Makino's life suddenly, and in this anime, like Kotaro ends up in Karino's life suddenly, and both supporting adults in these shows for those kids, they're like clueless to what to do with a kid. And Karino even more so because he is also less experienced in his own life when it's like someone like Makio.
He also didn't make that choice. Like Makio makes a choice. Like,
Exactly.
Karino kind of slowly makes that choice.
Yeah.
It's very different to when Karino is like, he doesn't understand the boundaries he's doing, right? Like, I think Makio is negotiating the boundaries, but Karino is like completely clueless as to what his boundaries are. Like, I guess I'm taking him to school,
Yeah.
and I guess I'm gonna help him with like his like,
Or I guess I'm going to the opening ceremony now. Which,
yeah, it's like stuff like that. Where it's like, I mean, it's cute and it's cool, but it's like, I think part of it is like they do spend a lot of time on that negotiation, which I think is not time wasted, but I think it is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that this show would have benefited from a little bit more balance of getting into it earlier.
Yeah.
If they're choosing to do it in this fragmented way
Yeah.
of like, random chapters and all that type of stuff, or not random, but like, more or less selected chapters. I
Yeah.
do think there is a way to, maybe I've not read the manga, but to get it so that you get in a bit sooner with them, and then also interact with these characters a bit more. Because I think that is the biggest struggle with the show. Is like Takei comes in episode 8, and I love Takei as a character, as someone who's
Yeah.
also, I do not dislike children as much as Takei does, where I like struggle to touch them and be around them. But I do like, I think Takei is very, very interesting because her problem that she presents very quickly is that I can't relate to is that as a woman, not liking children is like you're treated like a monster, right?
Yeah.
Like it's your job by societal norms, your job to like and take care of children.
It's something that's attached to you as a woman from the get go.
And you should be like ashamed of not being able to fulfill
Yeah.
which is not true in the slightest, but it is a very interesting exploration where it's like, oh,
It's also really interesting because it's not necessarily a chosen thing.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely not.
it's like this might sound a bit weird because it's gonna come off as I'm like comparing kids to dogs or something, but like some people are scared of dogs,
Yeah.
and it's not like an active choice that they fear from the dog. It's
Yeah.
just is. And Takei's situation is like that. She just can't fathom how to communicate with kids, and then just feels like put off, like scared, literally
Yeah.
scared. She gives physical reactions, and she's being judged by that. She's being judged by something she can't necessarily control, like, and that's something not like she can't control, and something that's put on her, even though it shouldn't, like, has
Yeah, it should be, but it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think one of the big things about this show is it's consistently challenging the way we have standard family, as well as also just like the roles we're expected to follow, and like it really emphasizes more the importance of like intention and following up on that intention through action is more important than a father should do this.
Yeah.
You should like Tamaru is probably not the best father, but it's okay because he can hopefully find a way to negotiate that and make it work with his son now, right? Like that's what matters rather than, like one of the big things is like Kotaro probably wants to spend time with his dad, but all the adults know better that the problem is that even if Kotaro's dad like supposedly doesn't treat him poorly, like that intention that he will probably treat him poorly will never disappear. Like
It will
'cause
never.
it's like a tainting thing of like the fact that you even fathomed it is
And
like
it's-
such a difficult thing for like mistreating your child in that regard,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like
it's
it's just a
also-
restraining order point, right?
And it's also not just even that. Like a lot of things in Kotaro's life comes from that too. Like he can't just get rid of it. Like even watching TV and like Tonoman,
I had to help him sleep. It's really
yeah,
sad.
to help him sleep and like kind of be in a quiet environment. Like almost everything he does is to avoid what he receives from his father.
Yeah.
And that's something that will stay with him in a sense forever. Like,
Yeah.
unless he gets this immense help from everyone, which is kind of the situation right now. But he then also he has to realize this.
Mm-hmm.
It's always this conversation where it's like you can give someone as much help as you want, but it won't matter until they realize the situation and want to receive that help, right?
Yeah.
So Kotaro is in that weird like segue where he's like he in certain moments wants that help, but in certain moments he by default and by experimentation realized his ways work. So it kind of wants to stick to those as well.
Yeah. One of the things that this show is weirdly about masculinity just by talking about a 4-year-old boy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of pride in the show. Like Kotaro, despite being considerate, is a very prideful person, and that his idea of getting help is bad. And one of the big things is that
it's hindrance.
Yeah, but in reality, getting help is normal, and you should get help when needed.
Yeah.
Kotaro needs help, and whether that help is simply only getting help from his neighbors, or maybe it's like
using the shower of the neighbor.
Yeah, like it's these small things, but like I think one of the big things for me was like I wanted to see Kotaro build it up a bit more, and also Kotaro doesn't even progress that naturally with how the chapters end up working out because of the formula-like way of going. I really would have appreciated Kotaro being more open slowly, where it doesn't really feel like the show does that. It kind of sees his pride and laugh and goes like, that's funny. Look at how proud this 4-year-old is. But it's really sad, like how proud he is as a 4-year-old. Like that's a bad thing. Like male pride of I don't need help. I'm better than you. I'm going to become strong. In a 4-year-old is sad in its own way.
That's kind of like one of the drama things I mentioned about this show. Like this show, and I kind of appreciate that in a sense, like for what this show does, because you watch this show, it's usually a feel good, like comedy scenes, stuff like that. But then with some more on the nose and then other underlying things, when you like think about the whole situation they're in entirely, like you realize, like you were just saying, like it's really, really sad. Like it's some stuff, like being that prideful, trying to be that independent, and like kind of almost trying to live as an solo individual at that age. They're all like really harsh and sad things. This show kind of smacks you in the face, like a kid. And that's why I was saying, like, the show tells us how important nurture and like the events like around the kid is to that kid, and how big of a role we as adults play on kids' lives, because a kid should not have the need to think and operate that way.
The thing that when people see Kotaro's situation, the thing that's worst about Kotaro's situation is the time that it's going to take to undo the damage, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see like with Journal with Witch, like the part that is like focused on the show is like the part that Asa needs to deal with is her coming to terms with the loss of her family, not that she's living with Makio and financial situation or sadness or blah blah blah. Like it's not those details. It's about her mentally coming to terms with it, right? And like kind of accepting it. And that's kind of the thing that I wish was more present in Kotaro, because it's like the big thing for Kotaro is like his pride is a huge problem. Like it is holding him back. And I think sometimes the show almost puts it on a pedestal more than I think it should. Not that I think the show's unaware of it, but I think it forgets in moments that I'm like, no, Kotaro's pride's a very bad thing. Like Kotaro, he's prideful. He almost doesn't want to share certain things with some friends. Like he's very set off in his own way. He's isolated. Like there's a lot of really big problems that I wish was more presented with Karino kind of, assuming Karino would do it, of like almost disarming him, right? At least in moments. It does not need to be big. I don't need him to have like a big wah cry scene, but I just need him to kind of get Kotaro to change the dynamic of some scenes a bit more. I think that's the big thing, is the dynamic never changes. And I think that part of the show is always, that's the biggest disappointment for me, is I think that while this show's consistent dynamic is good, it is not evolving or changing towards anything new. It is pretty consistent. And
it's stuck with its formula, basically.
Right. And I think with a show that is inherently coming of age, I think that shouldn't really be a thing, right? Like I think if this show was more interested in just being cutesy, that'd be one thing. But I think it is interested in Kotaro's coming of age story, and I think with that change needs to happen, and therefore vibes will change. Like I think that's one of the things about Journal with Witch that it does a lot is like the vibe is never the same in Journal with Witch from episode to episode. Like it is slightly, it's pretty consistent if you were to like generalize it, but in the minutia moments, there is a lot of slight differences and all these things. Whereas Kotaro does not. It very rarely will like you're either in a high like happy moment or a dip moment, and it's pretty obvious. Like there's no you can't get confused. So I think that part of it is very frustrating to me because I think inherently what Kotaro is going through is very confusing. So I wish it was a bit more confusing, which is weird to say, but that is how I feel.
Yeah, valid. Yeah, it plays it much more straightforward and like up into your face of what the situation is within certain aspects for sure.
Yeah, and mind you, this is solely my preference. I think that if people enjoy formulaic slice of life, I think this does hit the notes and does it at a high quality. I just think as what I crave out of the show and what I think the show is actually interested in doing but doesn't do is investigating Kotaro's uncertainties.
That's
right?
what I was gonna say. So we kind of stumbled upon like a really good way of explaining this situation where Kotaro Lives Alone goes as far as to ask you the questions, but then when it comes to further investigating and expanding on those questions, it does not do that necessarily. Which, again, this is not a bad thing. Like, even asking questions is a good thing because then us viewers can think or inclined to think on certain things on our own time without the show's assistant or anything of that sort. But it definitely feels like a show that it has that potential that it could do, and it's just not fulfilling.
I think it's almost ready to answer certain questions and kind of hints at it, but then backs off.
Avoids, yeah.
It backs off the second it gets too close. And I think that is ultimately the big, like, I will say for the ending of the show, I did really, really enjoy the ending of the show.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, this really needs a season 2. And then I looked at kind of how the mess of it being like 100 chapters in and then only being 60 chapters left, but it also not covering the ground of those 100 chapters. I'm like, do they go back? What do they like? Do they just go forward and cover those chapters more intimately?
Do they try to do the weird like chapter picking kind of?
Yeah,
thing
it's a
again?
weird situation where I'm like, I could see that working considering how fragmented the show is already, and I'm like, but I was just like, the show really needs a season 2, despite me thinking that the ending with Karino's lie as someone who doesn't lie, like I think that's all beautifully done. I think it's well done, and I think Karino's last 2 episodes are very well put and makes you really enjoy how much Karino cares for Kotaro, as well as also the boundaries and lives he's kind of set for himself and what he's moving forward with. I just wish Kotaro did that too.
I feel like those 2 episodes kind of elevate the show's whole standing.
Without those 2 episodes, I talk about the show way differently, I think, for sure.
Like, because as much as I enjoyed the vibes, like watching those final 2 episodes, like that was when I was like, okay, like this is a show that I can recommend because now it stands for something more than just being like your winter night cozy anime.
This is you sit up in the chair a little when those episodes happen, right?
Exactly.
You get a little bit more, okay, what's happening here?
Exactly.
But these are still only hints, right? These are hints. They don't delve into the details, the minutia, the things that make these type of stories stick out to me. And so while I enjoyed the show for what it is, and I really appreciate that shows like this exist, I do think that if the show had given me more clear intention, it was not interested in doing those things, I'd be more okay with it. But the fact that it even hinted that it was interested in doing this, I'm like, okay, you can't send me mixed signals. Pick one or the other.
Yeah,
right? I think that's the thing that makes it a little hard of like, stick to one or the other and commit to it, right? I think
it's that hesitancy of which route the show, like at least we don't get the show wants to go like 100%.
Yeah, so I struggle to recommend. I recommend the show with caveats. That would be my thing.
Yeah.
I would say like if you like these things and if you value these things and if you enjoy this type of humor and fun and coziness and then like these notes, sure. There are things I'll like. I think the bluntness is maybe not my taste, but I think like all this does work. But is this the thing that is it even answering the goals that it wants to answer? And I'm like, I don't know. I think that it still needed more time to fully do that.
Yeah.
But I think that where it's at now, it's an enjoyable time that is still searching for what it wants. And that's fine. I think there's plenty of shows like that, and I think a lot of shows would even dream to be able to be in that spot. But
Exactly.
ultimately, I would say that, like, while I enjoyed Kotaro Lives Alone, I think that it is a fragmented show that is very, very close to being, like, quite good, but ultimately ends up just being, like, all right and good. And,
Yeah,
like,
we
I
were
wouldn't say it's all right.
before, like we were talking for the recording. We were discussing like this show would probably go on an A tier, but
Very end of A tier, though.
yeah, but still an A tier show. But it would have to do everything else we just discussed to be able to go like top A, entrance S. Like it would,
Yeah. I think Entrance S would be a bit much. But
yeah, like bit much. But like if like bit much as in like there's a lot of work that we just discussed anyways. Like if it did everything we just talked about the way we feel like Journal with Witch or other like shows or shows that we deem S tier on our list, like then it has that potential. But with where it stands right now, we were like, yeah, like there's still stuff to be worked on if there's a season 2.
Yeah.
Hopefully there will be a season 2, but I don't think
it's locked up
so.
in rights
Yeah.
from what I've looked into. It's like very messy, and there's no official announcement either way. So
Yeah. But just to give like a whole like quick recap, if you just want to skip to the end of our episode, don't do that. I'm just kidding. It's a cozy show with moments where it makes you ask certain questions, and shows us some important things in a child's life and their upbringing. And this whole package is basically enveloped in like a cozy, sometimes comedy driven, sometimes like feel good vibes package. And it's, if you like those sort of shows, it's a pretty decent one. It's easy to watch for sure.
for sure,
And
if you like the art.
yeah, exactly. If you like the art, and it doesn't consume that much, and even within what it is, even though like each individual episode is longer than what you might be used to, since it's broken into parts, it doesn't feel like that. So yeah, if it feels like your cup of tea, or if you don't have a problem with children like Jared here does, I'm kidding.
I think the show's foundation and the warmness, and
Yeah.
one thing I really liked was the ending arts. I'm a big fan of the ending arts and the song that goes along with it.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between this and Journal with Witch is that, especially as a manga to anime adaptation, is that it feels very incomplete as a manga to anime adaptation, and like desperately needs a season 2 to expound upon the things they were already escalating towards. And
Yeah.
yeah, the foundation is great for what it is, and if you like, despite it having flaws, I think it owns its flaws, which I think is fine. And
Which
it's
is a
aware of
good
them.
thing, actually, because a lot of shows lose itself within those flaws.
Sure,
too.
yeah. I think that part of it is good, but I think ultimately the biggest thing for me is that it never takes that bold step. And I think maybe a season 2 would or wouldn't have, but I do think that because it doesn't take that bold step, it makes it always hard for me to be like, well, I don't know how to feel about this truly, because I can
Yeah.
tell that we were on the precipice of it trying to do what it was trying to do, right? And we
Yeah.
never really hit that. And so it's an enjoyable show. I think it's something that you can put on the TV and have a good time with. But I think that if you're searching for more, I think the show will be a subtle disappointment in that regard.
Yeah.
But it ultimately is still, the quality is quite good. I think all of the performances and I think even the writing is quite good, even if it's a bit on the nose. I think that how it interfaces with them is more the problem rather than the writing itself.
Like
So,
this show explains the feeling of pleasant really good.
it's got
as
this
a
great
show, yeah.
feeling of pleasant, and then the few dark themes I think are explored honestly. I just think the balance is a little
Yeah.
off. That's the main thing.
But with that whole conversation about Kotaro Lives Alone, a show that even Jared is on the verge of fully hating or not,
I
give
know
it
this show.
no, I'm kidding. Give it a shot, and yeah, I hope you like it. It was cozy and fun for me. So we'll see what's up.
I think whether it's time well spent does vary on the viewer.
Yeah.
I do think that
It's a personalized show
Yeah.
for sure. But now since Kotaro Lives Alone is out of the way, we can go to another show, which again, this month is a vibe. Like
Kind of slice of life, but
it's
yeah,
a kind of slice of life, kind of
cozy.
situation here, but it's going to be our shared watch, and it's called
Girls' Last Tour, which I've had on my list for like forever. But
yeah, mine as well, and we know that it has a good like niche fan base to
Oh,
it.
yeah, the fans are big fans of this show.
Fans ride and die hard by this show, and you'll get to see if we come to the same conclusion or not. So, see you next episode.
Later.